How's it going, guys, and welcome to another episode of Zen-Oh Button. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going over a deck profile of Android 18 coming out in Set 8 in the next coming weeks. So starting off with her abilities, Auto, when you place this card in your leader area, choose up to one Android 21 scheme from your deck and activate it. So that's really nice. You only really need to run one copy of the field spell. You don't need to worry about playing it, getting it out, it clogging up your hand. Just one copy and it gets played immediately. So let's go over that field spell right now. It's pretty interesting and basically how the whole deck operates. So Auto, once per turn, when you or your opponent play a non-token battle card, it can't attack for the duration of the turn. So if you're familiar with any other card games, a lot of card games have summoning sickness. Like you play the card and it can't attack. Dragon Ball is a little bit different. Most of the time you can play a card, it can attack the turn it was played. So it makes the game a little bit more dynamic and aggressive, I guess you could say. But this kind of takes it away. A big thing to note with it is it's a once per turn. So a super easy way to get around it is just play a one drop, like a cantrip or a searcher, like whatever you're going to play. And then everything else you play from then onwards, you can attack that turn. And obviously if you play it, you can just wait until the following turn and then you can attack with it. But it definitely, any type of card or effect that makes your opponent think about their plays and makes them play around it, like usually is going to work out for you. Second Auto, when you play a black battle card, place it in its owner's drop area. So essentially this kind of like prevents you from using black battle cards. That's my understanding. It seems like the auto wouldn't go off. I'm not a judge or anything, but how I'm reading that is don't include black battle cards because they're going to be kind of pointless for you. And then the final auto, which is the true point behind the card. At the start of your opponent's main phase, play 2 clone tokens with 10k power in your opponent's battle area. So that's kind of how this whole archetype works. Super weird because if you read the first auto, those tokens can actually attack you. So it's kind of weird, like you give your opponent a bunch of ammunition in the beginning, but I'll kind of explain through and how it's not too bad to kind of give your opponent some clone tokens to attack. So that's the field card. Android 18 activates it before the game even starts. So you're starting out with a 49 card deck essentially. So going into an activate main, once per turn, choose one clone token in your opponent's battle area, remove it from the game. And then draw one card and choose one card in your life, add it to your hand, then choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, energy cost of 1, and return it to its owner's hand. So a couple things to note about this. Going back to Android 21 scheme, the final auto at the start of your opponent's main phase. So it's during your opponent's turn that they actually play the tokens. So going back to the leader, the one thing that kind of sucks about going first is you can't really gain, like, yes, you have the energy advantage, but you can't really gain any card advantage or do much of anything. You kind of just sit there. Then your opponent's turn starts, and then since they can attack first, they can basically beat you down with like 2 10Ks. So I'm still testing this deck out, still playing it. I think usually almost always going first is better, but this might be one of those few decks where, you know, going second isn't awful because at least you can use your leader's ability, get rid of one of those clone tokens, and then send one of the 1-drops. And I think the reason that they have on the leader an ability to get rid of 1-drops is because of Black Mass Saiyan. Since Android 21 scheme is an auto and you as the player are playing battle cards with 15k or less power, Black Mass Saiyan should proceed, or process rather, on that ruling, causing you to ditch, I believe, 2 cards. So at least you have on your leader an ability to send those 1-drops back to hand. So if your opponent's going to play a 1-drop, you know, you're just going to send it back to your hand. They wasted energy. Where it's going to get a little bit more difficult is if they play multiple 1-drops, and I'll deal with that later in the sideboard, as you can see. So anyways, pretty unique effect. If you're able to like get it to go off Android 18's activate main a couple times, like you actually get a pretty big hand. But with your opponent getting the clone tokens, it's a little bit difficult because they're going to keep, for the most likely, they're going to keep swinging the tokens at you and cause you to awaken quickly. Which brings us to our awaken skill. When your life is at 4 or less, you may draw 2 cards and flip this card over. So I know most of the time people really like untap 2, but with the way this leader's set up and your opponent getting multiple tokens and swinging at you, you're probably going to be awakening turn 2, 3 absolute latest, just because your own activate main takes a life, and your opponent's going to be swinging at you with tokens. So even if you're going against like Shenron or some deck that has basically no way to attack, you will be awakening very quickly. So that's where the draw 2 cards is really nice, because when you finally get down to 4 life, you don't even have to think about it. You're just going to awaken and draw 2 cards, and no harm, no foul. Like, you just plus up your hand, and now those 10k tokens are going to be kind of like not that much of a threat. They're still definitely a threat, but like your opponent's now going to have to commit resources to make them do damage to you. And now moving on to the Awaken side of Android 18, standard auto: when this card attacks, draw 1 card, nothing special there, but activate main, very similar to the front side, except for one additional effect. So choose 1 clone token in your opponent's battle area removed from the game. Then once again, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards at energy cost of 1, return it to its owner's hand. Then here's where it gets interesting. Then reduce the combo cost of all blue and green cards in your hand to end battle area by 1 for the duration of the turn. So that's a really cool effect, and it's kind of like what I base this deck off. So you'll see in set 8 there's a lot of cards that remove clone tokens, and I have some of them in here, but I was mainly using this leader to do kind of basically like easy arrival with there's 2 blue-green Gokus that I have, and when you have the free combo cost, it makes arrival not as big of a cost, because especially if you use a blue-green card, you used 0 energy, you lost 1 card, and then you're going to arrival 1 other card, and then you get like a pretty sick effect for a very low energy cost, which with this leader, since she isn't an untapped 2, you want to be a little bit aware of what your energy is, and you're going to be awakening so early and no untapped 2, like, you just want to be aware of how you're using your energy. So going into the main deck, I'll go through the main deck first, and I'll go through the sideboard. And once again, I've only played this deck a handful of times on untap, so I'm still kind of learning the deck, still learning ratios, and there's, you know, some potential for cards I have in the sideboard to maybe be in the main board. But we'll go through it, and I'll kind of explain why I have each card, how I have it. So we're starting with lowest cost and then going up to highest cost. So Zen-Oh button, kind of self-explanatory in a sense, like, really good card. You don't have untapped 2, but you can tap out doing Arrival on your turn, and then you have Zen-Oh button to help you out with some Arrival on defense as well. From when I was playing this deck, I primarily am trying to do blue battle cards in energy, or blue-green, the Android 17, which we'll see in the future. So Zen-Oh button should usually be able to untap your 2 or 3 energy. In the few matches I've played, I haven't used it. I'm debating taking it out. I think honestly Senzu Bean, which I have in my side right now, will probably be a little bit better, because it could also help out with all the aggro from those tokens that you give your opponent. But once again, just kind of, I thought Zen-Oh button was an interesting play. We'll have to see. But moving forward, Desperate Measures, counterplay: if the battle card your opponent is playing has an energy cost of 2 or less, it is returned to its owner's hand instead of being played. Then choose up to 1 of your blue battle cards at energy cost of 3 or less and return it to its owner's hand. So here, this I kind of was running 2 of just as like an additional way to deal with if someone's just tossing Black Mass Saiyans out at you. It's just an additional way to deal with it. The meta was kind of very counterplay heavy. It seems to be going away a little bit from that, but I don't know. You know, the meta might change. Set 8 could change everything. And Desperate Measures is really good for getting rid of Champa the Trickster, Vegeta the Cruel, basically any of those 3-drop cards that get lowered by 1 in your hand. You can use this to send it back, and then you can grab a 1-drop, or is it a 3 cost or less blue battle card. I don't have too many targets I'd want to use that. Realistically, I think Kind Saiyan Son Goku is one of the only cards I would really want to do that with, but you're just having that to kind of play some a little additional defense. So definitely a very solid card. Once again, I haven't really used it yet, but I think it just depends. It's a card you really want to see if you have one of those counterplay heavy decks. For Dimension Magic, just standard blue negate, sparking, you know, nothing really to explain here, just makes sense. Kind Saiyan Son Goku, older card, works really well in this deck. When you play it, look it up to 7 cards top of your deck, choose up to 1 blue Son Goku among them and add it to your hand. So just kind of looking throughout this deck, you have a lot of targets. You have 3 of this Supreme Technique Son Goku, 4 of this on Goku, so you're at 7. Add 2 Ultra Instinct, you're at 9. And then add 3, 12. You're now at 12 targets, Ultimate Spirit Bomb, plus the Goku himself. So 16. Well, technically, if you're playing it, you can't have it, but 16 targets essentially in your deck. So, and you're looking at top 7. You should hit it. So this is a really good card to kind of pick any of the Goku pieces that you're missing. So just a 1-drop cantrip, could be used with Desperate Measures. Also some combo piece. Just a solid card in the deck. Blue super combo. I should probably look at all the blue super combos and see if there's something that might be a little bit better for this. But to be completely honest, like, I like Ginyu, he's a cool character, and you know, it's a blue super combo. It's with the new set. I just tossed him in. Android 17, Protector of Wildlife. He's got Energy Exhaust permanent. If you have a blue-green multicolor card in your energy, negate this card's Energy Exhaust in all areas. So this is basically, as long as you have a multicolor card there, this card's going to come in active mode. Kind of just a staple if you're running, no matter what color you're running, if you're running a multicolor deck, you want to have whatever the archetype is, you want to have the multicolor card that can come in active, essentially. He has an interesting ability. When your opponent combos, choose up to 1 of those cards and place it at the bottom of its owner's deck, negate this skill for the duration of the game. So that's actually a pretty cool effect. If the Broly Apes deck is still going to be super prevalent, you know, this might not be the worst thing to hard cast. It's 15k beater. You have him just chilling on the board. Your opponent's going to dedicate 2 energy to comboing that ape, and you can just send it to the bottom of the deck. So I don't like how it negate the skill for the duration of the game. Kind of sucks, but it's also a super broken ability. If it was once per turn, he'd have to be more than 2 energy. So mainly going to use him for energy, but it's cool that he's versatile and he has like another ability you could kind of use. Moving on to Namekian Technique Piccolo, 5k blocker. He has Activate Main. Choose 1 clone token in your opponent's battle area and remove it from the game. Play this card from your hand. So basically it's kind of cool. You can just bring out a free 5k blocker while keeping tabs on your opponent's clone tokens, because like I said, you want to keep tabs on them, because if you let it build up and your opponent has a ton of 10ks and they get a decent sized hand, like, that's a lot of threats to deal with. So this is just a way to kind of keep those clone tokens, keep them in check, and then get another blocker out, because, you know, blockers never hurt, especially in this deck where you're stalling them out essentially for 1 turn. Even if they bring out like a big monster, you bring out a blocker and you can kind of just, it just buys you time. Now this card is awesome when it comes to a rival, because sometimes with a rival decks you can lose your hand size. This is fantastic. So going into this auto, if it's your turn, choose 1 clone token in your opponent's battle area, remove it from the game. When you combo with this card, draw 1 card. So it's almost like a mini super combo. Like, it's kind of replacing itself. It's not a 10k, but it replaces itself. You're also doing a little bit of control on your opponent's clone tokens, so it's kind of plus to it. Although it's a little bit of a minus. It's not like a consistent, like, oh, I can always combo with this and draw. But if you're trying to do a rival, and it's, you'll see if you ever play a rival deck, sometimes like you just want to play the card, and you kind of have to over combo, and you're basically wasting cards just so you can do the arrival. At least with this, you are able to kind of replace the cards, so you're not dropping as many cards from your hand. So, and it's a free way to kind of deal with the clone tokens. Really big fan of this card. Super cool way for doing a rival. You just have to pay attention to the auto if it's your turn. So you can't play this on your opponent's turn and kind of nab one of the clone tokens, which would have been sweet, but I understand they're trying to keep it safe. Here we have Combination Attack Android 14. Auto, during your turn, when you combo with this card, if your leader card is an android, which Android 18 is an android, your opponent chooses 1 of their battle cards and KOs it. So this is a 1-cost combo, 5k power, and basically it's a way to kind of just KO, have your opponent choose 1 of their own battle cards to KO. Why this is really good in this deck is you have Android 18, the Awakened side. It makes all your combo cards free, right? So with this guy, you can play him, and now your opponent needs to just sack 1 of their own battle cards. And you can be doing this with a rival, and you're not using any energy to do it. So it's really cool. What you have to be careful of, though, is don't play this when your opponent has clone tokens out. Make sure you clear all those clone tokens out, otherwise they're just going to straight up choose 1 of the clone tokens because it's 1 of their battle cards because you played in their battle area. And essentially, they're kind of just wasting it when you would much rather be doing the Go tanks or the Piccolo, or we'll see some future cards. But anyways, I'm running 2 of this guy. It'll be a really solid way to kind of get rid of those like big monsters your opponent might have, especially if you get rid of all your clone tokens and they just have one huge monster. It's just a little bit of removal. So it's solid. Just running 2 of this guy. Destined Krillin. Basically, he's just a free blocker if you have an Android 18 in your battle area leader area, which you will always have your leader as Android 18. So just a free 5k blocker and just additional green arrival fodder. So, and once again, honestly, free blockers literally never hurt, and the fact that he's dual purpose as a arrival fodder, like, really solid card to add. So I have him at 4. Field card, which you already discussed. Now this guy, Supreme Technique Son Goku. Really cool card. Like I said, I'm still working at the ratios. I kind of want to get him up to 4, but his cost is a little bit steep at the same time. So I'm kind of dancing around it, but I think I want to bump him up to 4 at some point. So just going through his effects: blocker, arrival, blue, green, 1 blue, energy exhaust, auto. Choose 2 clone tokens in your opponent's battle area and remove them from the game. When you play this card, your opponent chooses 1 card from their hand and places it in their drop area. So you're seeing that and you're like, you know, it's pretty good. You know, 1 energy essentially for a 20k blocker. But where this card you can catch your opponent by surprise. If you see the auto, it doesn't say anything about it has to be your turn or your opponent's turn. It just says choose 2 clone tokens in your opponent's battle area, remove them from the game. So where this can get really awesome is your opponent's kind of swinging in with their tokens. Like maybe they're trying to aggro you out. They don't want you to like, or they got you down to 4 life and they're swinging with the token, and then they bring out a Champa or East Kai or whatever it is. Then they're kind of dumping their hand a bit on the token, which is very possible to happen. You bring this dude out and you're going to remove that token from the game. So you're basically just like doing a Shugesh Explosive Spirits on Goku and just removing those battle cards. So I'm a big fan of this. If you play, no matter which turn you play this on, although I think it's better to play it on your opponent's, you can kind of use this as a way to get rid of those clone tokens, especially if your opponent is, you know, overextending on one of those token swings. They probably won't fall for it twice, but at least, you know, you'll get them 1 time. And then he has the additional effect: when you play him, your opponent chooses 1 card from their hand, placed in their drop area. So just a little bit of hand removal. Your leader's blue, so you don't really need to worry about Mercenary Tau. I mean, obviously they could play the 2 energy, but you don't have a crazy amount of hand removal. There's a little bit sprinkled in here, but it's just enough to be annoying for your opponent, but probably not enough for them to waste a whole turn doing Mercenary Tau. So, you know, but this card I'm a huge fan of. I'm really thinking of bumping it up to 4 because he's also a blocker too. So you wipe out 2 clone tokens, your opponent drops a card from their hand, and then you have a 20k blocker, once again kind of making those tokens useless, and 20k is honestly going to block a lot of attacks. So big fan of this card. Like I said, definitely thinking about bumping it up. Moving on to Infernal Villainy Cell. He's a 4-drop 20k critical, although I don't think I would ever be wasting 4 energy to play him. You mainly are going to be using him for his auto. When you play or combo with this card, draw 1 card. So he's a 110k combo that draws you a card. So pretty sweet. Put that in with the Android 18 leader and the effect of lowering the combo cost. Boom, you basically have a free super combo. Great for arrival, so you don't feel like you're losing all the cards in your hand. Great for going with game, great for going for game, and then just, like I said, teamed up with that leader ability. Really sick card. Now, the last 3 cards are kind of the, I mean, it kind of makes sense with this leader, but I'm going to say is the spice of the deck. Is starting off with here, the Son Goku and Son Gohan Saiyans of Earth. It's a blue-green multicolor, arrival, 1 blue, 1 green. Auto: when you play this card, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards, energy cost of 5 or less, place it in its owner's energy in rest mode. Then your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand and places it in their drop area. So, going through the 2 effects, taking the card, energy cost 5 or less, place it in its owner's energy in rest mode. Kind of a double-edged sword. I played Zamasu Blue Yellow, and like adding cards to your opponent's energy is, like I said, it's a little bit risky. At least Zamasu has a big win con with it. But this card, I usually don't use it because it says choose up to 1, but I could definitely see if your opponent's going for game with a 5-drop or less and they dump their whole hand, it's worth it to put it in their energy because they just dumped their whole hand. But if it's just a normal attack and like the game's still kind of early, you don't want to give them that 1 energy boost, because the next turn it's going to make you're going to suffer from it. So that's very situational, and especially if they're going for game, like I said, you'll want to use it, but just be very cautious when you do it. His second effect, your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand, placed in their drop area. So that kind of teamed up with the Supreme Techniques on Goku, makes for some light hand destruction. Like, once again, nothing crazy. Like, you're not going to make your opponent have 0 cards in hand or anything like that. But, you know, you play a couple of those, like, your opponent has to drop 3 cards or so in like a turn or 2. Like, it's going to get annoying for him. But I'm sure, as most of you know, great thing about this Goku is he is a 5-drop blue Goku, which you can use to go into any of these 2 big boys. So I'll kind of show them in the order I usually prefer to play them. So I think it's best to bring out Ultra Instinct Saiyan Son Goku first. So he's EX Evolve, 2 blue energy, so his energy cost is a little bit steep with Android 18, but I mean, it's just 2 blue, so it's nothing too crazy. You can easily get him out as early as turn 2, but more realistically probably turn 3. He's a triple strike permanent. Your opponent can't combo for the duration of this card's battle. So basically, if you're swinging with this, they're going to be taking 3 cards. There's very few cards I think that could deal with it. Maybe just activate battles like Revenge Death Ball and like Frieza's, I think it's called Death Ball, it adds 15k. Those are maybe some of the few cards, but you can't combo with battle cards, so most likely, more often than not, your opponent's going to be taking 3 damage if they don't have a negate. And then its auto is very good as well. So it's when a card evolves into this card, return all of your opponent's battle cards to their owner's hand. So if you notice, it says return all of your opponent's battle cards. Bandai made a ruling, I think back in set 3 whenever Barrier came into play. It's when I started playing the game. If a card says choose, it doesn't work on Barrier. So this says return all of your opponent's battle cards to their owner's hand. So you play this dude, you're going to wipe all those tokens, get them off. I mean, the tokens won't go to their hand. Once again, I'm going to preface by saying I'm not a judge, so my understanding of the rules would be the tokens just kind of get removed from the game because they're just tokens. They don't go to people's hand. And then this is kind of your big removal. You can get rid of any blockers, any just big boss monsters they have, or if you're just getting swarmed by a bunch of weenies or something like that, small little battle cards, this dude will take care of them. You're going to swing, and hopefully you bring them out early enough that your opponent doesn't have really an answer to it. So ideal play, you bring this dude out and you bring him down to 2 health from 5 to 2. But realistically, is that going to work out? Probably not. You're going to swing with 18 like once or twice, or maybe 3 times if you go second. So getting him down to 5 life before you do this is going to be kind of hard. But a lot of people also run Self-Awakening, so it's not the most unrealistic thing. But anyways, you bring out this dude and you essentially just kind of wipe the board, and then you swing. And if they don't have a negate, like I said, and if it's early, there's a decent chance they don't have a negate. They're going to be eating 3 life, and you know, a lot of decks don't want to awaken as early as turn 2. Then we're going to go into Ultimate Spirit Bomb Son Goku, which I think is a very kind of underrated card. Like, a lot of people don't appreciate honestly how amazing this card is. So EX Evolve, 1 blue energy, place 2 cards from your hand in the drop area over a blue Son Goku with energy cost of 5 or more. He's got double strike, and then his permanent is awesome. Your opponent can't activate counter against this card's attacks. So this is kind of similar to Triple Flash, where there's only really a few answers to this. Like, there's the 1-drop yellow Zamasu where it says negate the attack. So you basically have to have a card, or like maybe Janemba Leader auto where it negates the attack. But this card can't be stopped by counter, so there's very, very few cards that can actually stop this. And he's a double strike, so if your opponent's at 2 life, like, you can go for game. And then he kind of has an all-in auto. When this card attacks, choose up to 5 battle cards in your energy area and combo with them. So this card is what can win you games. Even if your opponent has a huge hand because you've been attacking them, they've been taking all their life, they've just been accruing a hand. You know, by turn 3 or 4, if you've only been charging battle cards, you might potentially have 40k combo power or 50k combo power in your energy area. And once again, this is super risky to do, but I don't think there's that many cards that can pop a 7-drop. In fact, there might not really be any except for Bojack. I'm sure if you think of any in your head, make sure to put it in the comments. But there's not many cards, so you don't really need to worry about this card getting popped unless you're going against Baby Revenge Death Ball. They could easily do 2 Revenge Death Balls and pop this card. So that's something to watch out for. But for 95% of the time, this dude's not going to get killed. And you can combo all your energy, combo everything in your hand, which will be possible with the Android 18 leader ability, because all your 10Ks are now going to be free. You can even do some like pretty degenerate plays if you have a lot of energy. Well, let's see, when this card attacks, so you have to combo with the cards in your energy area first. And I was just thinking, like, you could use your energy and then do some arrival plays, make your opponent drop some cards, and then combo those cards off, which you still could do. But if you want to use the Spirit Bomb Son Goku comboing with your cards in your energy area, like, you won't be able to do that play. But regardless, you can still combo with those cards for free in your hand, which is super awesome. And then potentially, like, 30, 40k in your energy area. You can be going up to like 115k or whatever, some ridiculous number going for game. And granted, you won't have any energy, but like if your opponent survives that, like, they're gonna have no hand either. So that right there is basically the overview of the whole main deck I've created. Essentially, like, I've kind of explained it as I went along, but you're kind of just playing a little bit, not too much defense, but you're just kind of picking up your pieces with Kainsei and Son Goku. You have a bunch of free blockers, you have the arrival blocker, and you're just kind of using, just defending yourself a little bit, self-awakening super quick, and then having a pretty fat hand, doing a bunch of arrival, getting these blockers out. These are 20Ks, you can still swing with them as well to bring your opponent down to 5 life. And then you have these 2 finishers where you can basically just do a board wipe, and then if they're at 2 life, you bring this dude out. And this, even Ultra Instinct can win you games. Yeah, it might be hard if there's a deck that has a lot of counter plays and negates. Ultra Instinct's probably not the best to use against them, but if it's a deck where they're only running 4 and they use 1 or 2 negates, he just wins you the game. The guy can't combo. So I've been having a lot of fun with it. Definitely want to take this for a spin. Before I close out this video, let me just go over the sideboard quick. This isn't my actual official sideboard. These are just some cards I was kind of thinking of. So with Android 21 Scheme, in case it somehow gets removed, and at this point, I'm pretty sure Tactical Victory Vegeta is the only card. No, I don't think there's anything released in Set 8 that takes care of fields, but maybe I'm missing something. But just in case someone actually runs that card, you have this one, I believe. If your leader card is Android, when you play this card, draw 1 card. Then at the end of your turn, opponent's next turn, play 1 clone token with 10k power. So that's nice. I kind of wish the field was like that, where it played clone tokens at the end. But, I mean, whatever. It's probably wishing for too much. Activate main once per turn, 1 blue, 1 green. Your leader card is an Android. Choose 1 Android 21 Scheme in your drop area and activate it. So this card is literally just made in case someone destroys your field. So I was thinking probably not the worst thing to run a couple of these in the sideboard. Here, Senzu Bean. Now the only reason I didn't main deck Senzu Bean, which seems kind of like a no-brainer, is there's all those new cards in Set 8, the Trunks the Cunning, Yamcha the Cunning, Pilaf the Cunning, all those. That kind of makes Senzu Bean a super dead card, because you have to send 5 cards from your drop area to the warp to untap an energy. So I don't know if Senzu Bean is necessarily going to be worth main decking. I know there's a ton of silver bullets and not everyone's going to run that card, but I was definitely thinking sideboard and potentially mainboarding it. I might get rid of Zen-Oh button, Desperate Measures. At the very least, it's worth it to sideboard, because if you don't run it game 1, people probably aren't going to run the untap, because, I mean, just off the top of my head looking through this, I don't really think I untap besides Dimension Magic, which the Cunning cards don't affect you on defense. So it might be worth main decking 4 Senzu Beans instead of Zen-Oh button and Desperate Measures, or maybe siding them in game 2. I'm not sure. Like I said, I've only played this a couple matches, and definitely will have to expand upon it to see what's best. Now this guy is more for if you have a bunch of 1-drops coming at you, or your opponent's doing the whole, like, I'm just going to hoard my Black Mass Saiyans, and then I'm going to drop 2 of them, and, good luck getting rid of 2, or maybe even 3. This dude right here, when you play this card, choose all of your opponent's battle cards at energy cost of 1 and KO them. So for 1 green, you're going to have a green energy open. You can basically just murder your opponent's entire field of 1-drops. I would have run Crisis Crusher, but if you remember Android 21, when you play a black battle card, place in its owner's drop area, so it'd be pointless. And then the final card is Mafuba. I don't know if you'd ever really have 2 energy open, but Mafuba's always a really good side deck card, especially if Baby, which is one of my favorite archetypes to play. I'm definitely going to be playing it in set 8. But if you play any of the editions or the versions of Baby where they have the big ape come out, like Mafuba is just a great answer to any huge boss monster. Victory Strike, if that comes, I mean, it still is around, but like if that ever makes like a huge return, you know, Mafuba is also an excellent answer to it. So it's always a really good card in any deck that's running blue or blue leaders. Anyways, guys, that was my deck profile of Android 18. Please leave anything in the comments if I made a mistake on any cards, if you think of any plays that or any cards that would be great to add to the main deck or even the sideboard. Please let me know. Please like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to press that Zen-Oh button.